People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, guys, we are back. And this week we have an author. I was doing an event, and this guy was doing like a book signing launch release thing. And I'm like, I want to have you on the podcast. This seems awesome. He did a promo video, and I've seen it 3 times now on YouTube. And it just looks like an adventure novel / I don't want to compare it to other things, but it looks amazing, adventurous, awesome. Everybody, it's OC Jaime. How are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be here, guys. Thank you for having me.
So the name of the book is The Seven Thunders?
Yes, that's the name of the series. And then Rise of the Twinkling Air is the actual subtitle to book 1. Yeah.
All right. So in your bio, you said that you have been in writing groups and things for a long time. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So, people probably be interested to know, like, how long have you been doing this? My answer will probably, cause some people to look at me kind of like cockeyed, like, why have you been on this road so long? So it's been 20 years for me. This started back in 2004. I was driving down Interstate 95, no joke, going past the Pentagon right around 6 p.m. It is crystal clear still in my mind, because what transpired on that drive, I had kind of like this mental download. All of a sudden, I started seeing images. I'm very, my mind works in pictures. And so I started seeing kind of these images. And so there I am, I'm driving down the interstate, and I'm sure I probably pissed some people off because, the way I was driving, and I'm trying to grab paper and pencil or pen or whatever to write with, just to somehow capture what I was seeing in my head. And instinctively, I knew I had something. I just didn't know what I had. And so it was the mad dash to get home. And that's not easy here in the Virginia area, as thick as traffic is. And when I pulled up to the house, I literally ran through the door. I didn't even say hello or kiss my wife, hello, or I just came straight to my office where I'm at right now. And I sat down, and for another 2 hours, just continued to kind of like jot down the things I was seeing in my head. And at the end of that, I sat and just stared at it looked like scribble on a bunch of different pieces of paper. And I didn't know I didn't know what I had. But that was a point in time in my life where, as a family, we were very much involved theatrically. And so I'm of the belief you work with what you know and what's in your hand. And so I had no aspiration at that point in time to write a book. I was working with a creative team on some projects we were doing for theater. I called a meeting, pulled them together, and I said, hey guys, I got something here. I don't know exactly what I got, but I'd really like to pull together kind of a draft script that maybe we can work. And so that really was the early beginnings of the Seven Thunders. Now, what has transpired from 2004 to 2025, it's, that road looks like this. It's spaghetti. And that story that did go to stage locally here in the Fredericksburg area, we did a three-night run. This is all like, our pooling money together to try to throw this thing together. But I'll never forget this, because we had 200 people the first night. We doubled the second night, and then doubled again on the third night. And I thought, okay, we have something here. I still don't know what it is, but clearly something about the early beginnings of what was the heart of this story was resonating with people. We then took a break. I then reconvened the writing team some number of months later, and I said, hey, I think we're not done. I'd like to do this again. but I'd like to stage it at a larger venue. And I really just want to kind of air this out because I need to figure out what this is. And so we did that, and we turned it into from what was just kind of a stage play with some music elements to it to kind of a more traditional musical. And I, in my craziness, because I'm one of those, my wife will describe me as I'm the bird on the ledge of that, the end of that branch, looking at my wife saying, "Come on, babe, let's jump," because that's kind of how I am. I just kind of jump and do the insane and perhaps courageous thing. And I reached out to some people in New York, Acme Sound out of New York, that does the sound design for every major show. And I had made a decision. I was like, okay, I need to not only see what this is more fleshed out from a script perspective, but what does it feel like, look like if we added something from a professional perspective to the show? And I chose sound. So I reached out to these guys on a random evening. I was just going to leave a message. All of a sudden, somebody picks up the phone. I had no idea who I was talking to, only to find out a few minutes into the conversation after he said, like, wait a second, who are you again? And how did you get our number? Like, this is not how we get reached out to. And so after I re-explained who I was and what I was trying to do, he was like, I don't know, there's something about you. He goes, send me whatever you can send me. I assume you have a media kit. Send me what you can send me. We'll take a look and get back to you. So I was like, sure, great. So I did precisely that. I sent him a media kit that luckily we had something in work that I just had to embellish a little bit. And I sent it off 3 months later. I ended up getting a phone call from him. He's like, Orlando, we're in town at I remember if it was the Ford Theater in DC. And he's like, we're doing the sound design for, I forgot whatever the name of the show was. He goes, my partner's. So I ended up, turns out I was talking to one of the owners of the company. And
Wow.
so he's telling me, he goes, we're in town. He goes, I'd like to meet. He goes, it gives me date and time, and we sync that up. And I go have lunch, and he is seated across from me, and he has my media kit in front of him. And the first thing out of his mouth is like, he goes, I got to tell you, we didn't know what to do with this because, again, how did you find us? How did you think about us? Like, this is not how things happen. We work with only kind of the Broadway shows and whatnot. And ultimately, the short answer is that he told me, he says, look, there's something about you, and I feel there's something about this. We'll do the sound design if you can afford us. And so I'm like, awesome. What's the number? So he floats me a number, and it was everything could do just to keep my composure because it was a crazy number. But I played it off like, great, awesome. Yeah, we can do that. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know how I'm going to pull those resources together. But ultimately, those funds did come together. We were able to raise close to 100K for that second show. And the relationship building that took place between me and Acme Sound made it so that they actually cut that number in half as a way of just like, look, we believe in you. So I thought, because of course you would think after 2 years now at that point, and kind of the reaction I was getting, that this ultimately was going to go the course of something on stage. But that is not the course that it ended up taking. In 2008, I was working with a Broadway musical director who had taken me under wing as I was continuing to try to figure out what this was. He took me under wing for 6 months. And we're in Ripley Greer Studio in New York. And he's behind a piano. And it was our last session. And he closes the piano. And he's like, Orlando, he goes, this is not a show. And of course, I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, this story is too big. There's too much here to try to translate that to a musical. He goes, I'm convinced this is a book or a set of books. And so I got really despondent because I was like, okay, because literally it's somebody telling you like, yeah, you got to take the left-hand turn at Albuquerque, like you're on the wrong road. So, and he saw that I was scared and all the emotions, and he just encouraged me. He's like, look, you got this. This is in you. You need to figure, you need to work at figuring out how to actually execute this in novel form, of which I had no experience. I was always good at writing, AP classes and whatnot, had dabbled, had done a few things, but nothing to the level of actually trying to execute a novel. So that was 2008 when I made the decision of like, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and try to figure this out as a novel. And so I believe that, nothing is coincidental. I'm very much a man of faith, and I know that God kind of had laid this road out in the manner that it was unfolding. And I got to insert this because I think it key to part of the pulling up my bootstraps that I ended up having to do when that musical director gave me that pivot. I had a private moment here in front of the house. This was after the second run of the show. And I was just, talking to God like one does. And I just was like, I feel like this isn't done. I just don't know what to do. And I tell you this, no joke. I felt like I had one of those epiphany moments where I could there was no light, but it was definitely, to me at least, an audible sound. And it came in the form of a question that said, I need to know if you're in this for the long haul. And I remember in my enthusiasm, because it felt very, very real, very tangible, very accessible for me, I was like, yes, of course. In my head thinking, well, that probably means what, a year or two, maybe 3. And here we are 20 years later.
Wow.
And so, but the beauty of that journey, I can't put any monetary value to it because of what I have learned, the people that have been woven into this process through that time. Because when you look at what we've created, and the book stands on its own 2 feet, it's beautifully put together. But that handiwork is not just mine in terms of what's on the written page, but it's the involvement of other creators who've come alongside during that 20-year journey, who, believed in it so much that these are professionals at the highest level that have donated their time and effort and sweat to create it. Because book 1 has its own musical score. There aren't many authors that have a debut book, especially in this genre, that comes out with its own musical score.
So is that a QR code? Is that a QR code that they can?
That we're going to be making available very soon. And so we're working through the mechanics right now from a legal perspective, as well as just, the book trailer that you mentioned a little bit ago. My son-in-law happens to be an amazing film director.
Wow.
And so, between what he knows and the people he knows, we were able to create not just the book trailer, which is just hitting, it's getting a great reaction, especially in store. But there's this ecosystem that we've created, and none of that could have been created kind of maybe perhaps if you had crazy money, in some short window of time. But the leisure of having basically that 20 years, we were able to have this stuff in work and created for now. And so that's part of the beauty of that 20 years.
Well, I'm just hearing you say you got information downloaded as you went by the Pentagon. I'm
Yeah.
thinking testing something and something got beamed to you.
Yeah.
That's where my brain goes. That's how crazy I am. All right, so the book trailer. I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, book trailers are a thing now, which
Yeah.
I don't think were 20 years ago.
No, no, definitely not.
But yours, I mean, it's flushed out. It
Yeah.
is. It looks like you could make just a movie out of the trailer. I
Yeah.
want to see the rest of that. I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, I think this is one of the advantages of having the theater background because we don't think like normal authors think. I can't tell you how many other conferences I've been to or events I've been to, or even just walking into the Barnes and Nobles and seeing authors with their table set up and their books, and there's nothing about them or what they've set up that's, saying, "Hey, come see me, come check out my table." It's very plain, very vanilla, and but my mind and that of like my family, we're very three-dimensional, and I'm constantly thinking about how do we hit all notes that hit every single sense that we have. And so there's nothing. I'm trying to introduce as a debut author a brand new book series to people that have never heard of me and don't even know what this series is. And how do I truncate that so that within seconds you're drawn, you're interested, and by the time our engagement is over, you're already feeling connected to this world. And so that logic is what plays into the development of the trailer, as an example, because for kids, getting them hooked, especially boys, because this book is hitting with boys, getting them to see visually what this is about without having to even hold the book is that is the sweet spot. And so so we put, that you can probably imagine that took quite a bit of time to actually create in terms of ultimately what is the final product for the book trailer. But my son-in-law and myself and others, because the compositional work, that was the involvement of some other creatives, all came together to like answer the question, how do we connect with people and have this thing resonate like that? And honestly, we are very much, our digital society has made it so that this is how people consume stuff. Ultimately, as an author, you want people to connect what's on the written page. And we are, whether or not people know it or not, the last 3 years or so, there's been a massive shift back to old school books. That's why you're seeing more foot traffic in Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million and independent bookstores. People are wanting to get back to more tangible things. That's why, like from the album perspective, right? Music albums, like people are wanting to get back to those LPs, right? So you're seeing that same trend happen in the literary world, and so which is goodness from my perspective, because I grew up loving books and loving to hold a book. I'm not so much a digital person. I like to smell the pages and so forth. There's just something about that that sticks. So we, we figured that we've proven that we can create something that visually grabs people. And if I can get you past that first hurdle, I know that I can get you past the others.
Well, you did a demo at that homeschool group. I was doing a magic show, and you came on after to pitch your book and to do your debut of the. You said it was the debut of that.
Actually, of the trailer, yes, yeah,
like publicly, yeah.
yeah,
And I know this isn't your demographic, but I have 5-year-old twins.
yeah.
And right after you, trick or treating was supposed to happen, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get these kids in inflatable outfits, and you turn the lights out, and you know how hard it was in the dark. But my boys as I'm trying to, how hard is it to get twins dressed to begin with?
I
It's
can't imagine.
hard. I'm doing it dark now, right? I'm struggling, and my kids are over there. You have dragons. You have a big wolf, or
Yeah.
and they're just whoa, wow, pay attention to me, whoa, because they won't put their foot in the daggone costume. But my boys were eating it up. They loved it. And once the commercial was over, I mean, everybody was just applauding and going crazy. They all loved it. And now I've seen it times today. I didn't get a chance to see it that day because I was a little busy. But boy, it is amazing. It really is. Yeah. So do I give you credit for that a little bit, or is that all your son-in-law?
No, that really is a collaboration. I mean,
it's really good.
The magic sauce definitely is my son-in-law Chase, but because his mind is just brilliant and he's just extremely gifted. But it is very much these things, as I'm sure you can imagine, this is very much a collaboration. And the engine of that ultimately is what's on the written page. So from Chase's perspective, he's like, dude, you've created already the mental pictures for this. It's in the book itself. And so the actual development of the artwork and ultimately putting together the various scenes for the trailer is a much easier process when you're working off of something that's already kind of in written form. And so, but yeah, I'm very, very much a people person. So, and I'm highly kind of a collaborative person. And one of my biggest joys out of this 20 years with the people that have come on board, kind of woven in and out through time and have contributed to the project, is I have a personal aspiration that this project has long tails that will carry these people forward, not just to be part of its future, but to kind of broaden their own horizon with their own gifts and talents beyond the incredible things they're currently doing. So that is something personally gratifying to me because we're finally at a place where this thing is real. It's out in the world, and people are reacting to it. And I can see that day coming, where it's going to have those tales enough to kind of make room for those that have believed in me and in this project for so long.
So in your original play, was it like an abbreviated storyline of all 7 books? Is that how you have the 7 in mind, or was it just book 1? How did that work in the play?
No, so this is where I kind of think of this kind of in the metamorphosis category, where the caterpillar going into the cocoon and coming out transformed as a butterfly. That to look at the caterpillar, you don't mentally see a butterfly, and to work in reverse, to look at a butterfly, you don't mentally see a caterpillar. Unless, of course, you understand biology and you're able to think in those terms. But I equate this project in kind of through that lens. The first stand-up of this show and even its second instantiation, it can't be any further removed than the gulf between here and the other side of the country. I mean, it is, the difference is drastic. What remained are kind of the heart and soul of what the story actually was trying to convey. Because what you learn in the writing process, there's an adage, and your audience may know this, they may not. There's an adage in writing that there are no great writers. Think of the biggest writers, Tolkien as an example. He's at my mountaintop. There are no great writers, there are great rewriters, because to write something great, you have to go through the pain of deconstruction and moving and shifting, and it's a very, very arduous, painful, and oftentimes lonely process. And so it's for me, the transformation is absolutely night and day. If I look at So when I started in '08 and started to actually write, there have been 4 full rewrites of the
Wow.
book. Now
Wow.
this is a 300 some page book. So you can just imagine, what that looks like in terms of undertaking. But I made a decision early on when I got agented in 2017. I made and then ultimately decided in 2023 that I was going to go indie publishing as compared to standard publishing. And the rationale was purely because I wanted to be in more control of the brand and of the product. I could have gone standard publishing, but it was a choice, and it's a choice I'm really happy about. But at the end of that, you I wanted this product to go through the same process that if you wrote a book and you got agented, which only 2% of the writing population gets an agent. And then if your agent is successfully able to pitch your book to a publishing house, well, that population drops down to like 1% of that 2%. So it's like, even though when you walk into a bookstore, you're like, holy smokes, there's so many authors out there. Well, yes, but if you do that, the math compared to the total population is really small. But if you were to write a book, go through standard publishing, your book will go through a very specific process, from developmental edit to copy edit to ultimately proofreading. And that takes time. And that's normally involving different editors through that entire process. And in my decision to go indie publishing, I was like, I'm trying to strike here. So guys, a little bit about me. I have always tried to present this as what I saw in its future, not where I was. So even though in the early days, when I put that media packet together for one of the owners of Acme Sound, I put together something to the best of my ability. And he told me to my face, he said, Orlando, I got major shows that don't have a media packet that looks like this. But I say that because my aspiration is to hit here. Honestly, from a personal level, I just wanted to give God my absolute best. And so I purposely put the material through the absolute entire process. A lot of indie published authors or self-published authors, they don't do that. They may hire an editor to go through the material, but the full process, developmental edit, took me 13 months alone. I then went into copy edit, working with another brilliant editor. That was about another 5 months. And there was like 2 or 3 rounds of proofreading. So this baby's gone through it, right? And so, but the proof is in the pudding, because this thing, ultimately, I was like, look, I don't want to have to be always in the room. I need the book to be able to stand on its own. And that's where we're at, to have the incredible reviews we've had from Kirkus, which getting a really good Kirkus review is not easy. And from Publishers Weekly. And then the actual, I think even more important, just the reaction of the beta readers that we had through time, because the book was out with beta readers 2 years before actual release. And so all of that just kept reinforcing the fact that, yeah, it was 20 years, but we did it right. And here we are. And now it's just a long, I wish I could say that the work, that it's gotten easier. It's just more. It's just more. But yeah.
Well, you told us before we went on that you've done 18 Barnes and Nobles. Are you reading a sample of the book, or are you just there showing the promo and signing books?
No, so when Barnes and Noble, so the release date of the book officially was October the 1st. Back in the early summer, I reached out to, because I live in the Fredericksburg area, I reached out to Barnes& Noble Fredericksburg and wrote them an email introducing who I am, gave them context about the book, sent them a bunch of, visual pieces of artwork, and basically was pitching, hey, I would like to do an event at your store. And so they reached out to me relatively quickly, I think within that same week, and told me that yeah, that they would love to have me. And I had asked for availability of dates within the month of October because our release date was October 1st. In my heart, I was hoping for October 4th, which was, the Saturday, was just a few days after release. And that's the date that they came back with. And so the whole plan was doing our actual book launch at the Barnes and Nobles in Fredericksburg. And so out of all the people that have followed me through time, who have seen me on this journey, I started reaching out. We put together beautiful invitations and gave them an easy way of being able to RSVP digitally. And my intent was to actually, like, legitimate, from the Barnes and Noble side, they just thought I was going to do kind of a book signing. I described to them what the actual event would be, but I don't think they connected dots. I kept them abreast of the fact that, hey, expect at least, I think when I first told them, I said, expect around 50 or so people that are not going to be normal people in the store. This is like that are coming just to see the event. And when they told me that they had ordered X amount of books for the event, I was like, I think those are going to sell like right away. And so I kept in constant contact with them in the lead up to the event. And a few days before the 4th, actually went in store, met with the managers, kind of walked the space. The original place we were going to do the actual event within store was back in the children's area of the Fredericksburg store. I don't know if you're familiar with the footprint of the Barnes & Noble there in Fredericksburg, but children's is kind of...
Yeah, that's next to the Target.
Yes, right beside the Target.
I know that place, yeah.
So children's is all the way to the back, and the footprint of that store, because Barnes and Nobles has changed kind of their layout, that we were originally planning on trying to do it in the children's area. But that day when we visited to do a final kind of check and conversation to make sure we were all in sync, my wife was with me, and she went off kind of to look at things. I was with one of the managers, and I was standing in the area where the Barnes and Noble's Nook product occupied some really large section of the store. They had this blocky kind of furniture components and whatnot. Well, that particular day, as I'm standing there talking to the manager, I realized, wait a second, I'm standing in the area where the Nook stuff used to be set out, but none of that stuff is here. And so it turns out Barnes and Nobles they were removing all of the Nook stuff from all their stores and had just done so for that store the week before. And so the manager was like, his name is John, amazing guy. He offers to have the event in this incredible space that was just like prime, close to the front of store, right beside their Starbucks area. And so everything came together so beautifully. And our setup, I'm telling you, you got a small taste when you guys were there at the church. The full setup we were able to do for launch. And I mean, I forgot ultimately what the number was. I think it was closer to 70 some people that ultimately came to the event, plus the onlookers who were there shopping, who came and stopped. And they sold out within minutes of the product that they had. I had stash with me to come ready just in case, which we had to dip into. And they were just absolutely floored. And the manager at the end, he told me, he's like, I want you back. Like,
Wow.
yeah, he just had high praise. Well, that was October 4th. The following week, we did Barnes and Noble Fairfax, which is a bigger store, bigger market. And we did basically a sister event for the people that I knew up in the Northern Virginia area. So I had, in the same manner I did with Fredericksburg, had created an invitation list with RSVPs. And dude, that event at the Fairfax store was as good, if not maybe a little better. And same situation. All the books they got came in, and it just, And so as a result of those two things, plus the release of the trailer, which Barnes and Noble's got to see, Barnes and Noble's made a decision. So that's just, okay, think about this. Book release October 1st. The first event at Barnes and Noble Fredericksburg was October 4th. The next event was October the 11th. So 2 weeks from release, because of the activity Barnes and Nobles was seeing, and because of the trailer, they made a decision to put it in the tri-state area for a debut author for a debut series. And so as a result of that, Cardinal Publishing Group, which is my distributor, they said, hey, it would be good if you were able to visit as many of these stores in person as you can to sign the inventory that they have, because books tend to sell better that way. And he goes, and also kind of like cultivate relationships, because it would be helpful for them to, they see you, they see the book, all of a sudden there's a different affiliation, right? And then also work to try to actually have events similar to what you did at Fairfax and Fredericksburg at those respective stores. So, I mean, this upcoming weekend will be 2 weeks. So within the last, give or take 10 or so days, I've hit 18 of those stores.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and the reaction has been, it is weird to walk into stores I've never been into and to see the book prominently displayed. It honestly was kind of a moment for me. And displayed on prominent bookshelves beside the biggest books that are out there. And, it's one of those things I'm like, God, only you, because, and I have found these visits to be extraordinary because I've met wonderful people. And with every engagement, the moment I introduce myself and I show them the book, because I carry a copy with me, and the reaction is, oh my God, that book just came in, and there's this like really in the moment, like you're getting the real thing of what they're thinking about the book, their reaction to you as an author. And trust me, these managers understand you've been in the car driving some distance to come visit them, to just sign the copies that they have. And the interactions have just been incredible. And so every interaction has led to them taking photos of me in store, posting on their social media, tagging Barnes and Noble Corporate. And on the flip side, I've been doing the same thing. I've been taking photos of myself, sometimes with the manager. Always, one of the photos we always do is one in front of the store with me pointing at the sign. And then when we're doing our social media, we're tagging the store and tagging Barnes and Noble Corporate. And, the idea being, hey guys, take notice. I'm out there, things are happening, and they are paying attention. I've lost count how many of the managers have said, "Oh my God, I've seen you on the store's Instagram feed. I was wondering if you were going to come to our store." So that's been quite amazing. Yeah. So the engagement and the reception has been just wonderful. I did 2 stores today. I was uh, I was in Williamsburg and then Newport News just earlier today.
Wow. So I'm gonna attach the trailer to the podcast Facebook group that I have.
Yeah.
But do you have an elevator pitch since we're 40 minutes into this podcast?
Yeah.
Can you do an elevator pitch verbally about your book?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're for the lovers of Percy Jackson and Harry Potter, and trust me, there are many, this is the next series to come out into that space. This is a coming of age story that will span 7 books. And so I was in St. Louis back just, I think, 2.5 weeks ago at the National School Librarians Conference that they were holding in St. Louis. So this is a national conference that happens every year. We went there for the purpose of being able to showcase the book to the school librarians. So we had a booth, we had an exquisite setup. The opening night of the conference, it was like a stampede. Once they saw us, I mean, our booth was swarmed, and the same thing kept coming out of their mouths. "Oh my God, you don't understand. Our kids are clamoring for a new series," because they're right now kind of regurgitating through, Harry and Percy and all these other books, which is great. But at some point in time, those things kind of get stale because you've kind of reread them, and they're wanting, just as librarians, something new. And so just instinctively between what they saw, both in terms of setup, the trailer that we had running on repeat, the music that they heard. I don't remember if you guys noticed, but at the event there at the church for the trunk or treat, we had giveaways of a candy confection that we've materialized from the book itself. So again, getting back to, we hit all 5 senses. The last sense we hit is taste. And nothing connects you faster. Nothing has more lingering memory than taste. And so the idea of there is this gap. If we had released, this is where I just chuckle and think about God's hand. If we had released just a few years back, when I was like itching to want to get out there, we would have been bucking up against what remained of the Potter series, what remained of Percy Jackson, and all, and a number of the other series that were coming out, and we would have been trounced, squelched, pushed out. But now, because there's this gap, it's like a wide open field that the book is stepping out into, and that's the reaction that we're getting from the librarians, from the Barnes and Noble bookstores, because they're saying the same thing.
Well, I missed the confectionery thing. What was it?
It's called, yes, it's called.
My kids got one. I didn't know it.
They had a trunk set up.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So the confection is called the Chaka Waka Lick-It, and it's a candy confection from the story itself. We have other things in work that we're hoping to make available, but it's exquisite. My wife is an incredible baker, and now has gotten into confection making. And so she has actually made the Chaka Waka Lick-It, and we have variations of it. So think of it kind of like chocolate on a stick, kind of a lollipop form of candy. But we're talking the highest of quality, and with the variations that she's come up with, it's just, I mean, you talk about knocking it out of the park. People are blown away when they're presented with something that's beautifully packaged that they're actually going to be able to taste. And so back to the pitch, this is a coming of age story. I'm of the strong belief, and maybe it's because of my faith, that it's always the most unlikely of individuals that are chosen to do the mightiest things. And so, and it is something that you have seen told time immemorial. That theme is something that runs in some of the best books that are out there. I mean, if you think about just like my favorite author, Tolkien, if you think about just The Hobbit, or you think about Lord of the Rings, I mean, Frodo is about as like unlikely a hero, and yet he is the hero needed. And so here's a brand new story, a new telling, new circumstances, and an introduction to a brand new world. And you have a opportunity. What I love is that, and I think this is why it's hitting with boys, they're able, and with girls too, but you're able to see yourself on these pages, and you're able to see the possibility of, you may feel completely inadequate. And perhaps you think nothing of what abilities you have. But that doesn't render whatever purpose and or destiny on your life moot. And so this gives an opportunity of being able to showcase what it actually looks like to walk someone's purpose out through time, in this case, across 7 books. And so that's going to take you through all the ups and downs. And of course, every great fantasy has to have the elements of adventure and fighting against some big baddie, right? And so you have all those things that make for, something really, really good that you can sink your teeth into. But the heart of it is being able to see that you are seen, and the idea of what it looks like to become is a very central theme in this book, as it will be in the series. What does it look like to become? Whatever that is. And so that is kind of my elevator pitch. If you're somebody that loves kind of being whisked away to some other world, to have a break from whatever reality looks like in your life, the Thunderlands in the world of the 7 Thunders is a place you want to hang out, and you're going to want to hang out.
Wow. So structuring 7 books sounds like a nightmare in itself, because you got to get, all right, so I introduced the bad guy's mother in book 1, and I don't need family history again until book 6, and I have to go back in book 1 and try to find that spot. How does that work? Do you have to, I mean, is there, in your writing group, is there structure, format, things that help you with that? Because I know I work in television. They have people, that's their job.
So you would understand the concept of storyboarding then, right? So the idea of being able to kind of lay out what's the actual framework look like, and so again, one of the advantages of being on this for 20 years. Back in 2017, when I got agented, my agent asked me, he's like, "Hey, can you give me kind of the summary version of what this looks like across all 7 books?" And so luckily I already done kind of the heavy lifting of like the thought processes of what that looked like. And so there's no cheap way out. I mean, there is, but then you're going to end up with garbage, right? I took the time to figure out what is the arc of this series. Where do I want it to ultimately end? I don't know if you caught the Netflix red carpet at Grumman's theater in Chinese theater in LA just a few days ago, promoting the release of the final season for Stranger Things. I bring this up because as part of the red carpet interview, they were asked about kind of a similar question. Did you know in season 1 how this would end at the end of season 5? And their answer was, I thought, beautiful, and it kind of aligns itself to where my headspace is at. they knew what the last 10 minutes would be for years now. And so it kind of functioned as their North Star. And so in the development of the seasons and episodes leading up to what is this final season coming up, that's what they used to make sure that they were ultimately going to be able to land that plane the way they wanted, how they had envisioned it. And so for me, I have that kind of construct. I'm going to fine tune now, really dial in to what is that kind of last set of chapters for the final book. But I do have that kind of big picture firmly in my mind. And so the way you decompose that is, all right, well, how does book one play to that arc? And within book one, how do the chapters achieve what needs to happen in book one so it plays to that overall arc? And you basically, it's a rinse and repeat for each book. How does that book, and insight into the literary world, they love a series, but they want each book within a series to kind of be able to stand on its own. So even though you're reading a series and they're all interconnected, that book, if you didn't pick up a previous book, you should still be able to appreciate that book. And so, you kind of go through this process. Everybody's process is different, but I am now in the middle of working on book two. And I have not been in writing mode for over a solid year now. So stepping back into it, it's like literally, they're just dragging me back into this world because my character is very, I don't know, very real in my mind. And so I'm very much in the thick of it. And so as I'm writing, I am thinking about big picture for book two as it relates to the overall arc of the 7 books. And it's for continuity purposes, making sure it's in sync with what was released as part of book one. And so that process is continuous as you step through the rest of the series.
And you got to think about those grandmas that just buy book 3 for their grandkid, and the kid's like, I'm so confused. So that book has to play on its own, and that kid falling in love with it and want all of it.
Right.
Yeah. Golly, that sounds. But all right, so in the trailer, there's a talking bull.
Yeah.
Correct. Dragons, flying boats, castles.
Yeah.
Somewhere, one of the reviews things said that steampunk-esque.
Yeah.
You're into steampunk? What is?
Steampunk is like, it's a subgenre of fantasy, right? And I've always been fascinated with innovation.
Yeah.
And so, the reason they use steampunk-esque, it's because there are elements of this story primarily played out by the protagonist of the story that he tinkers. And so it's I'm able to use something that I enjoyed growing up as I read different subgenres within the fantasy genre that drew me to like, I kind of like the steampunk elements and the creativity that's necessary to kind of think in those terms. And so, you will find that this particular book and by extension the series will be hitting some, let me put it like this. If you're wanting to write a book, Wes, let's just say some idea hits you. Not only do you want to know that you're able to execute that story and do so at the best of your ability, you got to understand who your audience is. And so it is a fine line between being kind of a repetition of something that's already been created, right? Some problems that some authors run into, it's like, it's too close to something that's already out there, right? But so the needle you need to thread is, how do I create something that is unique to itself, and yet at the same time pulls at things that are reminiscent of other stories that are beloved.
That's what killed me in my introduction at the beginning. I didn't want to say Harry Potter, Peter Jackson, because I've had Percy Jackson. Sorry, what did I say?
Peter Jackson.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
More the race. That's okay.
You know, I was in the realm.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
But that's something that happens to me in meetings.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have a great idea, and they're like, that's how they pitch it to their bosses. Oh, it's
Yeah.
like Harry Potter. Stop! No,
Yeah.
mine's not like Harry Potter at all.
Yeah,
I don't like that, but that's how they like to talk to each other. They want to compare.
Well, yeah, I would maybe perhaps encourage you to think slightly different in that regard. Yes. So, because in every pitch that you actually write to get somebody interested about what it is, they want to know, well, like, what is it like? Like, hit me with something I'm familiar with, right? So familiarity is a good thing. You just want to make sure that whatever it is you create is truly something that is unique. And I think that's the one of the beautiful things that's come out from all the beta readers and various people that have read the materials. Like, oh my God, this is a brand new world, and yet it's built on purpose to be reminiscent, you know, of little things. And if you hear the Duffer Brothers, the creators of Stranger Things, talk, they're right in your face about, on purpose, by researching all the favorite things they loved about the 80s and using that as elements of introducing kind of those themes and things into the creation of the series, because people love the music of the 80s. People, there's so many things about that time period that they want to make sure are kind of fingerprints within what they've created as this brand new story within Stranger Things. So the short answer is, I'm unabashed, unafraid about saying no. If you love Harry Potter, you love Percy Jackson, well, wait till you get a load of this, because this is a brand new story. And yet you're going to love the fact that there are elements that are familiar enough, that touch those chords that all of us have in our heart and our mind, that draw us back to some of our favorite things. A good book will do that.
So, are you allowed to say the overall moral of book one? Is there a moral? Is there a, besides the hero's journey?
I would just say it's more.
I want to spoil it. I just want to.
Yeah, no, I would say that there are many nuggets within this book, and even more so as time moves on into the other books. My goal is to take a generation and have them fall in love with this series in the same way my girls were all about Harry back in the day, or myself growing up, when it was all about Tolkien, and that opened up doors to Donaldson and Brooks and some of my other favorite authors. And I want to be able to take a generation under wing and be able to sew into them, by the storytelling itself, help them to kind of perhaps see themselves and the world in maybe a slightly different set of ways. And I think that the Seven Thunders will do that. I really believe in my heart that it's going to grab a generation. As a writer, you're writing to a specific genre, and you're writing to whatever that age group is. So book one is a middle grade piece. So that means, 10 to 14-year-old, purely from the genre perspective, but it's written in a manner that it's, high schoolers love it, adults love it, right? So it's
like Harry Potter.
Yeah, very much like those books, right?
Potter was everywhere. I was working in restaurants. There was adults reading Harry Potter. I mean, kids are reading. Everybody was reading.
Yeah. So it's designed to be a broad net, even though it is written specifically to that age group. Um, a smart writer knows how to pull, because at the end of the day, everybody just loves a great story.
Yeah.
And if you're able to execute a good story, you're going to you're going to pull in mom, you're going to pull in dad, you're going to pull it, people of all ages. And so that's, I mean, my heart is to take a generation and to have them fall in love with this world. And by virtue of what they read on the pages, that they see of themselves on those pages, perhaps do a little good.
But you said earlier, book one took 13 months with the copy editor, 8 months with the other editor.
Yeah.
How long is book two? Everything's gonna be faster now that you got
Yeah,
it.
much faster, right? Because book one, think of it like you're breaking ground, right? And that ground is winter hard, right? So now that I've been through all that, I now know how to actually execute a novel. And so that's going to be my goal, is to be on a release cycle of every about 18 to 24 months between books. So that's long enough to not drive me crazy, and is short enough to keep people on the hook.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. 18 to 24 months.
Mhm.
You will have a generation of people that grew up with your book.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What a cool thing that is, though.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Dude, I don't know. So I know it's available at Amazon. I know it's available in the tri-state area in Virginia.
Yeah.
Where else can they get your book? I mean, Amazon's probably the biggest.
Yeah, so they can get the book through Barnes and Nobles online. If they go into Barnes and Nobles, is not the book right now. Barnes and Nobles has physically put it into all books in the tri-state area, all stores in the tri-state area. But if you are in a different state and you find out about the book and you want to get the book, yeah, the easy button perhaps is Amazon, but you could walk into Barnes and Nobles because it's in their system and they could get the book for you. And again, I'm of the strong belief that Barnes and Noble corporate is going to be putting this ultimately across the entire country in all of their stores. But I laugh because we're only a month out from release, and it's already such an incredible position that we find ourselves.
I knew you win. Just you remember that Wes Iseli knew you win. So when book 7 comes out and you're living in a castle, and just say hi to the magician who passes by. Golly, congratulations, man!
Thank
All right,
you.
it's called The Seven Thunders: Rise of the Twinkling Air.
Yes.
Amazon, Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble. Get
Yeah.
in, check it out. Jump on the journey early,
Yeah.
and you ride it all the way out. You can
Yeah.
say that you were one of the first to find out. And
Yeah, and we have events coming up. I have a local event downtown Fredericksburg at the Jabberwocky Children's Bookstore, which is cool. It's old school kind of independent bookstore, and so I'm jazzed about being there on the 15th of this month. The following Saturday, I'll be at the Barnes and Nobles in Woodbridge, doing a full event there. And so we're going to be soon on our website kind of having an events page so that people who perhaps want to know if I'm going to be in their area, that they can come out and yeah, lots happening. I have a number of elementary schools that I'm going to be at over the next few weeks. I'm a little intimidated. One is, I think, over 100 kids. One is over 170 kids. And so and the calendar for January and February is already booked, and so it's I haven't. I'm trying to right now just focus on the Barnes and Noble stores. We're in talks with Books a Million and the other places, as well as other big independent stores. And so, more is coming.
Website, Instagram, pitch it.
Yes.
Oh,
So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Our handle is at The Seven Thunders. So literally the title of the book, all spelled out. Please follow us. Keep track of what we're dripping, because we're posting. We're really active on our social media. And as far as website, super simple. The Seven Thunders as an entity is owned by the parent company called World of Thunders. So World of Thunders, in my mind, I'm just going to be fully open here. Yes, we're coming out of the gate with a book, but you better believe there's gaming in its future. There's also movies in its future, like all the things. And we're in conversations right now with a big company who's wanting to pick up the audio rights to the book. So with the objective of a audio version of the book coming out full scale, potentially sometime in, I don't know what it's a little too early on to project a date, but I would suspect by late 26, perhaps going into 27. And so worldofthunders.com is our parent website. And through that, you can get access not just to the book. If somebody wants to, say, order the book directly from us so that they can get an author's signature copy of the book shipped to them, that's an avenue available to them. But I am encouraging people to exercise the primary channels through Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. That helps just in terms of the metrics necessary for this endeavor. But through the website, there's companion content that we'll be releasing and being made available to the website. In the in-between periods between releases of books, I'm going to be writing a blog. And so that blog, the intent of it is to give people kind of peepholes into this world without touching the story itself. And so, people, you've seen the crazy fan bases for some of these really big projects, right? They can't get enough of stuff. And somehow you have to feed that dragon. And so between the blogs and some of the other creative content, new musical pieces that are in work, new artwork, we're hoping to just keep people hooked and connected.
golly, that is awesome. Well, dude, we've already done over an hour.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless you. I wish you all the success in the world, man.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, I want to just thank the two of you very much. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe very much that random night they're doing trunk or treat at that church, running into the two of you, leading to this conversation and just being able to have this opportunity you've been so gracious to give me is not by chance. And so thank you.
Thank you, man. I think the only thing left to say is see you next week.
All right, guys. Peace out.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.